Hey y'all, hope you're well and happy holidays. So of course the holidays can be a beautiful time. There's connection, there's amazing food, there's music, there's family, there's joy, there's caroling in the streets, there's singing and all kinds of stuff. However, it can also be the most dreadful time. The stress of having to get gifts and the pressure and the materialism and the marketing and feeling like you need to buy certain things for people and not knowing what to get, and you're going to disappoint them, or they're going to disappoint you, and the family drama and people asking you about how your year was and if you got your life figured out and what's going on, and well, your brother's doing great, what about you? You seem so directionless, and how come you're not dating? Your sister's married and has kids and blah 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 blah. So if you anything like I used to be, I wouldn't be surprised if you dread the holidays. Maybe it's an exciting time for you, but if you're watching this video, probably a lot of stress. And this actually was kind of prompted by someone wrote in recently, and they were really struggling with the holidays, basically saying that they're had a parent who was just like putting a ton of pressure on them, not treating them well, and demanding and kind of expecting all these things from them. And I was like, well, do you ever think about just not spending the holidays with that person? And they were like, what do you mean? It's like, well, I actually took a few years where I didn't even speak to my parents because things got really bad, and things are actually good with my family now. But there was times when it wasn't, and I think it's easy to assume that we have to be a certain way in our family. And so I want to talk to you a bit about like maybe what you can do if you're feeling stressed out in the holidays, and how you can kind of use this as a time to actually grow and learn about yourself. So first I want to, there's this really funny little cartoon that you may have seen going around at some point, and it's basically this like, this Buddhist or sort of like monk on a mountain, this guru on the mountain, and he's got his pupil there, and the pupil is like, you know, like, master, is there anything else that I need to do, like, to attain enlightenment? And then the master goes, there's just one more thing. And then the next shot is this, like, sort of Buddhist monk student, like, sitting at a, like, table, like a Thanksgiving dinner table with the whole family, blah, 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 and it's like, oh, God. And I think when you're kind of in this mindfulness, awareness lifestyle, that can be how it is. It's like you're doing great, you got your new friends, you got your practice, you wake up, you meditate, you work out, you feel good, you know, everything's going well. When you're with your friends, you feel good, you're excited, you're inspired, and then you go home and it's just like all the triggers come out, all the things, all the smallness, all the things that, you know, we thought we had figured out, we thought that we had overcome, they just seem to come out. Our triggers are just like trigger bang, I'm freaking out. So this is very common. And again, it used to happen to me all the time, and I really didn't know what to do about it because I thought I had it figured out. I thought it was good. So it took me a while to kind of make the shift with family, and what I started to see was that family is kind of like the ultimate tool for growth, just like relationships can be, like really deep relationships, especially ones where you've known these people your whole life, and some of your deepest and darkest triggers probably came from them. It's easy to assume that you have grown and that you shouldn't have those triggers, but rather what I see it now is like family helps you bring out the things you need to work on. So it's kind of like a mirror. It's kind of like being in a relationship. Your partner often brings out the pieces you that you thought were gone but actually still need to be worked on. So one of the things that you can do when you go home is you can just become more aware. I'm not saying that you're going to just listen to this video and stop stressing out and you're going to be good to go. Far from it, but you can be aware, and part of being aware is actually keeping something like a journal, having a journal where you write down the things that you notice. Okay, when mom said this, it made me feel this way. And here's the thing, it's not your mom's fault. You can blame her all day, or your dad or your sibling, you can blame them all day for, you know, saying that thing that triggers you, but unless you're going to try to force them to change, which never works out properly, you got to recognize it's something within yourself that you can work on, you know, because people can't make you feel things. It might seem like that. It might seem like, oh, well, when dad tells me this, you know, and he asks me why I'm not getting better grades, and it makes me feel shitty and stupid. It's like, it might seem like it's this opportunity to blame this person or to tell them, hey, that makes me feel bad. In some cases, you know, the awareness actually helps. In a lot of cases, if you say, hey, listen, when you say that, it doesn't make me feel good. And if there's a receptivity, awesome. But a lot of times with family there isn't, and that's okay too, because you can't go around your whole life just guarding and protecting yourself. It's like YouTube comments, you know, people are like, well, you know, should they have YouTube comments, should they be moderated? People say horrible things, and I mean, do whatever you want, but from my experience, like, I need to be able to withstand any sort of criticism. You know, there's critics out there, and there's haters out there, and there are people that are just going to say things that are going to get under your skin. And what you can do is you can look at that and say, okay, how did that make me feel, and why? When mom said that, you know, I'm looking a little too skinny, you know, and I need to put on some weight, Why did she say that? Does it really have anything to do with me? Is it because she cares and that's her way of saying it? Or maybe she has her own insecurity and it really has nothing to do with me and I'm kind of her own like internal projection and her trigger. So starting to look at that, starting to become aware is a huge first step. And just a quick little side note, this is why I'm launching a mentorship program, which you can click the link below if you want to learn more about. It's going to be awesome, and it's an opportunity to actually work on these things in a group setting, and I will be there to guide you and help you overcome these things. Because family, oh my God, family is the ultimate trigger, and family is the thing that often keeps us the smallest. I've had experiences with friends who, some of the most talented people in the world, who never quite lived up to their potential, or never really released the music, or wrote the book, or really put it out because they were always trying to get validation from their family. And this is one of these, to me, one of the most unfortunate things, to see some of the most creative, brilliant minds just beat themselves up because they had usually it's one family member who was hard on them, and no matter what anybody else says about how great they are, how special they are, they spend their entire freaking life just trying to please that one person, trying to please that one parent, and it's and it never does, and it's a weird motivating factor, and people don't even really notice it. They're like, I just want to make my dad proud, and he's like, your dad might never be proud, and maybe one day they'll come around. In the case of from myself and music, for example, it took my parents a while before, when I told them I was going to be a musician in college and I was not that talented and I couldn't sing and I couldn't write songs, and they kind of freaked out, and they did everything to sort of convince me otherwise, and I just knew and I trusted myself, and eventually they became the biggest supporters of the band. That was awesome, but it took me believing in myself first. So this brings me to another point about this. If you are a conscious, aware human, which chances are, if you're watching this, you are, well then. Alright, what was I saying? There was a really loud sound in the backyard, so I just had to move to my car. It's like my little film studio right now. So, just what I was getting at is that, you have a choice. It's easy to assume that you don't. It's easy to assume that, you're this conscious person and, you just have to first off go home and just put up with stuff and deal with stuff. And listen, if that's what you want to do, if that feels right, if it feels called to go home and to kind of suck it up or figure it out, that's great. But sometimes the choice is actually just not going home, doing your own thing, creating your own traditions with your own friends, spending some time alone. Yeah, that can be sad, but spending some time by yourself on the holidays can also be a beautiful thing, to be like, okay, I care about myself, I love myself, I'm actually gonna sit here, I'm gonna chill and just kind of go into the feeling of being in this space. And that can be a beautiful experience if you want it to be. Or having one friend or a loved one. Sometimes if you have a partner, oh my God, that creates a whole nother dynamic. When you have a partner that you care about and you love, and you're dating someone and you bring them home for the holidays, it's quadruple the trigger bombs and E to the MC freaking square them, whatever the hell that means. So sometimes, and I've done this in the past too, but just do something with just your partner. Just create your own tradition, create your own family. There's this odd thing, it's well, we're a family, we gotta stick together, and it's but at some point you weren't family. Your parents, at some point, if they're together, at some point they weren't together. They were two random people with their own families, and then they come together, and then they have kids, and well, now we're family, we gotta stick together. But when you meet someone new, it's you become family with them, so you create something new with them. So just know that the option is there, and sometimes in the long run it's better. It can be sad at first. I spent many holidays alone without my family, and it can be a weird, sad thing at first, and kind of get time to adjust, but in the end it can make things better. Taking some space, sometimes just saying, what, I can't talk to you. I spent a couple years not really speaking to my parents, and it was odd, but in the end, it allowed me to grow enough and allowed them to grow enough to actually come back in a stronger way. Because if we don't really allow that space to grow, you're just going to continue to repeat the same patterns over and over again. So that might be right for you. It might not be. I'm not here to tell you the definitive exact answer, but if it feels like it's right for you, well then maybe it's right for you. Maybe it's something that you need to try it. I want you to know that it is an option that can actually make things better in the long term. Sometimes actually taking the break can be the thing that allows you to shift out of the current situation. But to me, it really comes down to awareness. This works for anything. This works for stress in general, for anxiety, for confusion, just being aware of who you are and how you interact and how you feel. You can apply this concept to anything. Let's say you're someone who struggles with eating, you have addictive eating disorder of some sort. Just you have a problem with eating too much and you're a mindless eater. Well, being aware of how you're eating and what you're eating and how it's making you feel is going to actually start to shift that naturally. It's the same thing with family and the holidays. Being aware of how you feel around the people in your life is going to allow you to actually recognize, like, oh, first off, do I deserve to be treated that way? Because a lot of times it's like, all we want to do is just get frustrated at our family members, and we just want to bitch about it, and we call up our friends or our partner and blah 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 blah, and this, my dad said this and I can't believe it, and my mom did this, and then it's like we just want to complain about it. And if you want to live in a life of complaints, by all means, be my guest, complain away. But I'll be over here on the other side where I don't complain about people anymore, ever. I don't. And if I do for a second, I'm like, what am I doing? That's silly. Why would I complain about other people? And you can sit around and complain, or you can actually take actions in your life. You can actually recognize that, wait a minute, I have a choice. The choice is to either not be here or to recognize what's coming up in myself. Why am I being triggered when my dad says that, or my mom says that, or my brother, or whatever it is? And what can I do to actually level up, Holidays are a great time to level up your life, to actually see who you really are. And instead of going to the state of blame, looking back at yourself. Again, for me, it's always about looking at seeing who we really are, pointing the finger back to ourselves and recognizing that, you know what? I'm this person, I've got these things, and I can actually make a change. I can actually do something different to inspire others, to inspire myself, to live a different life that's not the standard thing. Because there's this sort of karmic relational thing that goes on in families where, your grandparents do things a certain way, and then they raise your parents, and then your parents do things a certain way, and then they raise you, and it's like we take on all these energies, and in a way it's like it can feel like we're responsible for all these things, and I don't want to say responsible like we are to blame, but we can take responsibility to make the changes. We can see that our parents treated their parents treated our parents just like they did, and then they treated us just like their parents treated them, and it's this never-ending cycle of karmic crap and complaining. Or we can actually be the ones to say, you know what, I'm going to do something different. And I've had to have that conversation with my parents. I'm like, you know what, I saw how you were raised and how you feel about your parents, and I'm going to do something different because I don't want to live in that life. And it takes us making the choice. Not blaming other people, not pointing the finger and assuming that they need to change, then I'll be good. You can go your whole life assuming if these people change, then I'll be good. But it's not going to do anything. It's not. I can promise you, nothing wrong, again, with expressing how you feel, if you feel comfortable enough to actually do that. But just assuming other people are going to change or trying to force them to change isn't going to help. But what's amazing is that when you actually start to change, when you actually make change in your life, naturally the things around you change. They can't not change. And part of that is the situation you surround yourself by, right? So that change might be surrounding yourself in a different situation or having some sort of practice. You know what? When I go home, my mom does that thing she always does that annoys me. Instead of fighting her, I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to go off to a room. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to take a little bit of a walk. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to play some music. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to journal. I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to engage. Or, you know what, when my brother does that thing, instead of interacting, I'm going to step back, and sorry, my foot is farting. Like my brother says that thing, I'm not going to engage and just fight, because that's what maybe they want. I'm going to just pause and think about the situation, what's really going on here. Okay, there's two people having a conversation, they're both arguing, they both think they're right, they're trying to get on each other's nerves. I don't need to partake in that. I can kind of step out emotionally. I've learned to sort of step out of situations. I don't get wrapped up in them like I used to. I mean, you're talking to a person who used to, like, the sound of my mom's voice, if I was upstairs and she was calling to me, would give me like a freaking heart attack. Like, I just used to get so anxious and stressed. Whenever I heard her, Josh, I was like, oh God, what's happening? No. It was literally that bad at times. And I've learned to just be totally cool and open and aware, and our relationship has completely shifted. And it wasn't when I tried to convince her of something. We had this huge, I'm not going to get super deep into it, and I explain more about the story in the book that I have coming out soon. We had this huge, gigantic kind of fight, but also like awakening many, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago. And I just remember my mom and I like always had a really rough relationship, and since I was a kid, we struggled. She had a lot of things with, self-esteem and thinking as a baby that I hated her, and It just didn't create a good dynamic. I was her first kid. She didn't understand why I wasn't loving towards her, and she wasn't also this very warm, loving mother. So my whole life I just felt this really big wall and this distance from her, and things were just honestly never good. I mean, up till not that long ago, never good. Never really felt like that kind of motherly love. I never really had that, which messed me up in a lot of ways. And it did, and I've luckily worked on that. Life is a work in progress, but I feel like I can actually love myself now, and that took a freaking long time. I became a people pleaser, just trying to get love from other people and do things that never felt right, and it was never good. So, the reason I'm sharing this is because one day I remember sitting on the beach, and I just remember I was sitting there, and my mom and I were getting kind of into our usual bickering, and something came over me, and it's just at a time I was being more mindful in the world, and I was like, you know what? I could spend the rest of my life being this sort of kid who thinks he deserves a mom that's XYZ, and she can spend the rest of her life thinking that she's this mother that raised me and deserves XYZ, and I should treat her this and that, or I can actually do something different. Because we can stay in our cycles, we can stay in our loops, or we can actually choose to change them. And even if you go home for this holiday and you just have the awareness, you still feel all the stress and the anger and the frustration, but the only difference is this time you're actually aware of it, and you're realizing that you can change it. It can make the difference. And that's what I did, and I told my mom some things that day. I said, you know what, Mom, we need to talk. And I shared things with her. I told her, basically she didn't have any integrity, and that I didn't trust her, and that if she wanted me to if she wanted to have a friendship with me, that she had to treat me like an adult, not like her kid. I literally was like, you need to denounce me as your son, essentially, and treat me like an adult, because I'm not your kid. I'm a human with feelings and my own perspective and all these things. And that really got through to her. So sometimes, and I didn't say it in a mean way. I said it in a very honest, vulnerable way. I was like, this is the truth. This is how it's been for me for so long. And that really worked, and that got through to her. So sometimes sharing how you feel is a huge thing, but it took me many years first to fully have that awareness within myself, and for it to click, to embody it, not just to know it. I knew it in my mind, but to actually do it is a different thing. And you can do it, and I really trust that you can do it. If you're here watching this video and you want to make some sort of change in your life, you want to make some kind of shift, you want to do things differently on the holidays, it's a great time. It doesn't have to be the holidays, it can be any day. But the holidays are a great time to really see what you're made of and who you are and where you want to go. Something that's really beautiful about the holiday time is that, and just being around family, is that because it does show us our triggers, it also shows us what we have the potential to create. It shows us who we are in this moment at our, sometimes our darkest, most stressed out, traumatic moments, but also shows us where we can go. Because I really believe that the trauma that we've experienced and the hardships that we've experienced, it's the getting over of those things throughout our entire life that actually creates the amazing path in the journey. It's recognizing, okay, this happened to me, and either I can be a victim my whole life, or I can say, okay, because this traumatic thing happened to me, if I can learn and heal from this, that's what's going to make me an amazing person. That's going to be the truth, the juiciness of who I am, the beauty of who I am, is in that moment of oh wow, I've completely shifted my entire life, my entire perspective, because I had these bad things happen to me. I figured out how to overcome them, how to grow from them, and to become and blossom into this beautiful person. So family is a great opportunity to actually see those pieces of ourselves. And now I see it with my entire family. Everyone has this level of awareness. My mom totally shifted her whole life, and she went through a similar process that I did. She recognized who she was, and she saw that maybe she had to step back from some family things and took a lot of time away. And I'm not here to talk about her story, but the point is, it's she was able to shift how she experienced family too, by doing the same thing. So I've seen this happen with countless friends. This isn't something that's unique to me. This isn't something I share because I'm look how cool I am. I'm good with my family. Good luck, have fun, good night, goodbye. No, everything that I share is something that's meant to be actionable. And even if that first step is you just being more aware, having all the triggers come up, but maybe it's just this holiday where you become aware of who you are. Oh wow, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. I wrote it all down. These are the things that I need to work on. And then when I go back to see my family, or in the interim, I can actually work on those things. And wow, I'm really self-conscious. I noticed that when my mom tells me that thing about my weight, that it really messes me up. What's going on there? And it's easy to distract yourself, like I said, from, well, she shouldn't say that. And you can tell her that, and that might be helpful. But if you spend your whole life wishing she didn't say that, but not seeing that you're actually the one that's feeling the thing and making what she said mean this horrible thing about yourself, you're never going to get anywhere. However, if you recognize that that's something within yourself that you need to work on, that you have certain things you're struggling with that you can grow and learn from, well, that's freaking amazing. That's called empowering yourself. That's actually how we grow our own power. We give our power away when we believe that other people are the reason that we're feeling a certain way about ourselves. It's the ultimate illusion. It's ego, it's illusion, it's falseness, it's Maya. It's like all of the fakeness. So we can actually see that we have the power, that we're responsible for how we feel. We can take responsibility, that you can shift your entire life. Again, if you want to do the mentorship program, just check out the link below. I'm doing a really good special right now, and it's going to be awesome. The people that are getting involved are freaking epic, and people that I think are going to like make this whole process freaking awesome, because it's really about bringing people together from the world. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. You'll see like anyone can sign up, and just getting to be part of a group of people just trying to better their lives and having that accountability. And it starts right in the new year, January 11th, so it's a great time because like I said, holidays can be stressful, and there's something about the New Year's resolution, even though I think there's some weirdness around that in general, like coming up for the New Year's, like what do you want to create in this year? And imagine that this year is the year for you. Imagine that this is the year where your entire life turns around and everything changes, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So check out the link if you want. But either way, I wish you luck on this amazing holiday adventure, and know that it's going to be okay, that if I can do it, you can do it.